Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program. Today we're going to be trying to get into orbit to complete our contract that we picked up at the end of last episode. We also upgraded our launch pad, so now we have a weight limit of 140 tons instead of the 18-ton limit that we had. We are, however, still locked on the 30-part limit, which we have to upgrade our VAB here to be able to increase that number there. So we do want to try and get into orbit. Let's get one of these guys out, and we are going to be building this thing completely from scratch again, just so we can kind of keep track of things. I'm not going to bother throwing any science materials on this thing right now. We'll worry about that later. I don't want to add any extra parts or any extra weight to this thing than we have to. So we're going to have the heat shield, we're going to have the separator, we are also going to have the MK16 parachute, and that should be enough to bring us back down safely. So let's throw one of the big engines on there. And do we have the little itty-bitty engine thing? We do not yet. Okay, so let me throw this one on there that has a swivel to it, and then that will hopefully either be the thing that gets us into orbit or the thing that we need to deorbit ourselves with this little setup. Next, we are going to throw another one of these separators into this, and we can then, let me see how many parts. We're at 7 out of 30. We can then throw, let's do a couple of the fuel tanks. Let me also change the color of this to orange for right now. And then we're going to do, let's do 4 of these. Right, that should hopefully be okay. Let's also throw down one of these ones. This is going to produce more thrust, although it's not going to gimbal like the other engine is. So we are going to hopefully be able to get into where we want to get to, because our capsule up here should be able to turn the spacecraft. Unless it's not, in which case that's going to come back to bite me. But let's throw 2 boosters on here. We're going to do that for right now. I'll rearrange this in just a second. Let's grab these guys and put them there. And let's see, we want to drop those down just a smidge. Something like that should work, hopefully. And maybe that's enough to get us into orbit, potentially. We still have some leeway on the parts, so if we wanted to, we could go bigger, but we don't have struts yet. So this is probably going to start jiggling itself as we start going here, so that might also be a little bit of an issue. But let me rearrange all of our stuff and make sure things are where we want them, and then we are good to launch. All right, well, here goes nothing. Let's see if this is able to get us into an orbit or not. Hopefully these solid boosters get us to about 15,000 meters, maybe a little bit past the light blue thing. Going into the darker blue would be nice, although we're just about halfway through and we're not even barely there yet. So we will see. Once we hit the mark right here, though, I'm going to try and start turning slightly and see if we're able to hold it. We are going very fast already, though. Might be a little bit of an issue. I'm going to engage the secondary engine right about now-ish, just so we're not completely stood still when we separate these guys here in a second, which is right now. And let's start turning, because we're way past the point where I said I wanted to start turning, because I wasn't paying attention to that at all. I don't have a whole lot of control over this, which was to be expected, because this doesn't have a gimbal, but rocking it back and forth with the controls here. We are moving. I want to kill the engine real quick and just see how are we looking. We are not too bad. Let's roll it back a little bit to, what is that, 90 or 60 or something right there, and then burn again. I definitely don't want to use all the fuel, that's for sure. So I'm going to stop it right there, and then we're going to roll all the way to the 90-degree mark and hold it, hopefully, until we hit close to the apex, and then we're going to burn. Okay, so let's start burning here. I don't want to go any closer to the apex because we might go past it and start falling back into the atmosphere, which will not be great for us. And let's cut the engines one more time. We are going to do one more burn a little bit closer to the apex before we separate, and then hopefully this is going to be the thing here. So let's burn again. We're going to use all of our fuel. There we go. Let's separate and engage this one and start burning again. And, oh man, look at how fast we're chewing through that fuel. That is not good. Okay, kill the engine again. We are going to wait until we're a little closer to here and start burning again. All right, let's see if we can get into an orbit. Come on. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. We don't want to burn all of our fuel. Let's see. Oh, we're not going to get into an orbit unless we want to burn all of our fuel. Ugh, I don't really want to do that because then we're going to be stranded up here. So what if we burn a little bit more, right? That's going to launch us into the desert, it looks like. And that's going to be a little bit of science nonetheless. So worst case scenario here, we get a little bit of science. Best case scenario, we don't die, I suppose. Let me get a crew report from here. We don't get anything still. Have I been 160? Oh, yeah, I was 190, wasn't I? Never mind. Let's EVA and get a little bit of science from that. There we go. And then we can re-engage ourselves into it, please, before I press the wrong button and kill my guy. But yeah, we should be good. I'm going to separate this guy. There's no point in having it. The one change that I'm going to do to this before we launch it again is add in some more fuel tanks to this thing. Unless we get enough science points to unlock the secondary little engine, the little tiny engine that doesn't use a whole lot of fuel, in which case I'll swap engines out, but I don't think we have enough points for that. So I'm going to throw a couple more fuel tanks onto it, maybe rearrange our solid boosters because we have a bit of weight to mess with as well as parts, so we can probably just brute force our way into orbit with a bunch of solid boosters if we want to go that way. So I added an extra fuel tank to the secondary stage of the rocket up there, and I also added 2 more fuel tanks to this one and changed the engine as well to the swivel one, so I'm able to start turning a little more earlier than trying to fight the thing until we got higher into the atmosphere. So hopefully this works a little bit better than the last one here. We might be able to get into orbit, or we still might not have enough fuel. That's kind of the thing that's a little worrying here. I'm going to try and turn a little earlier as well. As long as we don't end up tipping over, that would be ideal. Let's hopefully hold it there, I guess. Oh, I think we're going to do it. I think we've done it. Okay. And let me just increase it just a little bit more so that way we're not in the atmosphere. And if we check here, we are well above it. Okay, so there we go. We got into orbit. We should have this contract completed, and we do indeed. That is lovely. And what happens if we EVA now? Can we get more science for being in an orbit or no? Nope. Okay, so to make sure that we don't have to actually do this again, I am going to orbit around Kerbal until we get back to the point where we're able to go to the space station again. I'm going to try and burn and land at the space station, hopefully, or at least close to it, to see if we're even able to do that. We have a whole lot of fuel left. We might not have enough if we deorbit ourselves, though, so we'll kind of have to see if we can even do that. Although it might kind of be worth landing on one of these areas that we haven't been to. So like if we land in the desert, because we didn't land there a minute ago, I thought we were going to be able to, but we slowed down way too much from the atmosphere and landed in the ocean. So let's actually do that. Let's counter burn now and see if we can land in the desert. So we want to aim for that green dot there. Right, yeah, something like that should work. And are we too far past it? No. Okay, so let's keep an eye on our orbit. We've already completed the thing, right? Yeah, so if it uncompletes it now, then dang it. But we should be landing in the desert, so let me burn a little bit more, and that should be good. Worst case scenario, we land right on the beach. Best case scenario, we land somewhere over here by the mountains, probably. So let's separate now, and then we should be fine going back into orbit here, or back into the atmosphere, because we just landed with this whole setup a minute ago and we were fine, so we should be good. I haven't tried getting a crew report while we're going through the atmosphere here. There we go. We got some more science from it, so that's good. That's always great to have. And we are air braking quite a bit, so that's great for us. And we are pulling our landing zone way, way back from the beach, so that's good news. Alrighty, we landed nice and safely here. Let's also grab some cheap science from this as well. So let's get an EVA report. Cool. And can we also do a ground sample, I think it is, or what was I doing? Was it also just an EVA report? It was also just an EVA report. Never mind. Well, we got 16 science from that. We only made $600 back from our parts recovered, so that's probably not a good thing. And we also leveled up Jeb there, so that's also nice. Can I recover our space pieces that are floating around? No. I don't see anything floating. We do have stages there. What is that? Oh, it's sights. Never mind, I can't read. All right, anyways, we have 54 science to spend, so let's see what we want to pick up. I think I'm going to go with the advanced rocketry here because we get another fuel tank. We also get a little small engine, which could be beneficial for us here, so I'm going to take that one for right now. I'm also going to time warp to daytime, but before I do that, I want to go through all of the contracts one more time here and see if there's any relatively simple ones we can do. All right, so we have another really simple one, which is to test the heat shield again. So we already have a spaceship or a rocket built to do that. So all we got to do is load that one up. We get a quick $1,000, so why not? Let's open up that, and we want to go to the heat test one. And then we also want to make sure it's the correct heat shield, which is the 1251, which is not that one. So we want to go back to this. We want to grab the 125, which is this guy. And let's also smack that on top of this. Let's go out to the launch pad. We're going to just rename this real quick as well, and then launch it. And once again, all we got to do is click on run test, and that should be completed as well. So let's head back to the VAB. And now the next one that I want to try and do, this might be a little risky to do, but we just had our spaceship go into orbit, and that's what these guys want. They want 2 people to go into a suborbital spaceflight around Kerbal. We get 12,000 per person, plus another 4,000 on top of that, so 16,000 per person, and we also get 25 stars, which is reputation, I suppose. So I'm going to take that. We have 4 hours to complete. Oh, wow. We have 4 hours to complete it, huh? Oh, no. We have 5 years to complete it. Okay, hold on. Let's take that. And we also want to take this one as well, right? Yeah, we want to take this one. We have to go up to 44,000 to 50,000 meters and activate an engine while we're up there. So I'm going to take that one as well. We're not going to do that one while we're trying to get these guys into orbit. So I don't think we can actually do the passenger one right now. That was my mistake, but there is a workaround. So I'm going to very quickly do one of these. This is probably not the way to do this, but I mean, it's going to work. So we're going to do that. And how many parts do we have to play with? We have another 10 parts to play with. Okay. So if this works, I am going to launch it. We're also probably looking at it now. How much weightage are we dealing with? 30 tons. I might need to put another one of these guys on there, actually, to be able to get the thrust. So you know what? Let me just do that right away here. Let's throw 4 of these guys. Oop, no, wait. Throw 4 of these guys on there. That should be producing way more thrust than we're going to need to get us up and out of the atmosphere. And then the fuel tank there, I'm going to leave it for right now. We might have to add to it, as well as this one here. Although we did have a bunch of fuel left over, so maybe we don't. And then last thing here, we're going to throw a whole bunch of parachutes on this thing because it's going to be pretty heavy coming back down. So I'm going to use a couple of these drag chutes to try and slow it down as best as we can. I'm going to do one of these as well as one on this set here. Right? How many parts do we got to play with? 2 more parts to go. So I'm going to throw the last 2 on these big parachutes here. And I guess we can do it toward the top of the craft. Oh, actually, let me do it on... you know what? Never mind. We're just going to do it in the middle of the capsule here. And maybe that pulls us down safely to the point where we can actually land. We do have a heat shield on this, so I got to remember to actually try and point us toward that direction. So I didn't realize we had to manually put them into our spacecraft here, but there we go. We have both tourists in our inventory right now. We do need to be suborbital, so I'm not quite sure what that means. Maybe... I guess, obviously, before we go into orbit, but I don't know how high up it wants us to actually go. It also doesn't help that it's nighttime. Can I do this? All right, so before we launch here, let me also enable this so we can see once that gets a check mark, we can just kill our engines. And hopefully this takes us high enough here to see whether or not we can complete this thing. I'm going to also, I guess, try and get us into somewhat of an orbit just in case that it does want us to, although it does say suborbital, so probably not. We're going pretty decently right now. I have a feeling as soon as these rocket boosters run out, we're not going to have enough thrust with the single engine that I have on this thing right now. Well, let's engage it nonetheless, and hopefully we're able to separate successfully here. There we go. Are we still going up? We are still going up. That's a good sign. This thing looks like the most wonky thing you'd ever see. There's 3 capsules stacked on top of one another. I really hope that the parachutes on there are enough to slow this thing back down and we don't kill everybody on it. So once we hit 70,000 meters, that's going to be outside of our atmosphere. Is that what's going to trigger the check marks? It is indeed. Look at that. Okay, I'm not going to burn any more fuel, so I'm just going to separate everything right now. And hopefully we don't come to regret that, but we need to turn this thing around now into a retrograde, and hopefully, again, the parachutes that we have on here are enough to stop us. We went a little overkill with the fuel. We didn't need to bring that much. We weren't going into orbit, so that was my bad there, but here we go. Let's see if we survive this. So far, so good. Nothing's popping up that it's burning up, so that's great news for us. How much health does this thing have? It is not using any heat shield health, which is odd. It normally uses at least a couple numbers there, but okay. It works nonetheless. I also just realized I don't have my drag chutes on their own thing. That was stupid. Let me activate those real quick. There we go. And we can also disable SAS because we don't need to keep ourselves stable anymore. And yeah, we should be good to go here. We might have gone a little overboard on the amount of parachutes that we have on this thing. Although we can cut the drag chutes, which I kind of want to do, but we're 10 meters away, so it's really not going to matter. But here we go with splashdown. And nobody died. Although these guys don't have a check mark on the secondary stage here, which is not good. If we recover them, is that then going to complete that quest for us? Well, they both gained XP, so maybe it did. Oh, yeah, you know what? It's not on there, and it's gone from here. So we got 25 of the reputation points, which now the green thing is encroaching on the yellow thing. So I'm not sure what the reputation goes to, but we're going to try and complete another one of our contracts. This one wants us to fire a flea engine at an altitude of 40,000 to 50,000 meters. So we're going to try and do that one right now. As we're doing that one, though, we are also going to try and do this one. So I don't know if it's going to be super beneficial to us because I imagine we're going to probably kill our dude. So it could be a little bit of an iffy situation here, but we're going to try this nonetheless. It wants us to fire a hammer engine at an altitude of 260 to 270,000 meters. So this could be pretty bad. I'm going to load up our engine tester and then swap everything else out. All right, well, hopefully we're able to complete the flea engine test. So let's hopefully hit 44,000 to 50,000 meters. If we can't even hit that with this setup, then we have to go back to the drawing board here. But we have a pretty basic setup right now. We have 2 solid boosters. We have 3 of the big fuel tanks with the swivel engine, and then there is the flea engine in between. And once we're done with that, we also have another fuel tank with the tiny engine to hopefully pull us out of orbit or wherever we are, if we are that high, which I don't think we're going to get that high, but who knows. All right, we should be able to do this now. So let me kill the engine and activate it, and there we go. We got the next mission done, or the next contract done. Now, this is going to be a little bad, but... oh, actually, no, it's very, very fast. Okay, so now, if we take a look at this, we're pretty much dropping straight down into the ocean, which is fine, I do believe. So, as long as we don't catch on fire on the way down, we should be fine with landing. And then I have to rearrange our setup to try and do the other engine as well right now. Although... getting into that high of an altitude is going to be a little iffy, but we should hopefully be able to do it. So to end off today's episode, we are going to try and complete the final contract that we had selected, which is to fire the hammer engine at an altitude of 260,000 to 270,000 meters. Now, to get there, we are going to be using the same exact rocket that we just had. The only difference is I threw 2 more of the solid boosters on the first stage, and then I changed out the flea engine for the hammer engine, which is this guy right here. So instead of the little tiny one that we just had on there a second ago, we are basically using a double of that to fire off and get this contract done. So hopefully this is enough to get us into that altitude. We don't need to be going a certain speed, so that's good. I don't know if the suborbital thing is going to trigger on its own. I imagine once we get to that height, it's then going to trigger it, so we should be good. Let's go ahead and launch it. Now, this doesn't really matter all that much. We're just going to go straight up. I don't need to turn it to go into an orbit or anything of that nature, so these are going to take us pretty high because this is pretty much the same setup we had for our orbiter, right? We had 4 of these guys and it took us up to like 180,000 meters, so we're gonna see how high these things cut out at. and then we will try and get there with the solid or the fuel booster that we have as well. Although I don't like that we're turning, but it should be kind of okay, I suppose. We're going through the atmosphere pretty well. Let us turn the fuel engine on now, and then we can separate from our secondary stages there. Let me also open up this and see how we're looking. We are climbing, but we're not climbing very quickly. Let me do this. Ooh, I disabled SAS on accident. That could have been bad. But I want to point straight up here if I can. That would be ideal. Okay. It looks like we're pretty centered. I don't know if this is going to do it, but this is the only other fuel we have until we hit the engine we need to activate at that altitude. All right, well, hopefully we hit the height that we're looking for. We're currently at 160,000 meters and climbing, so I hope we get it, although we are slowing down slightly. That's a little concerning. 175, I don't think we're going to hit it. Well, we broke into the 200,000 meter mark, so if we can climb another 55,000 meters before we start going down, then great. Although we are still climbing, so there's a chance. I don't know if that's 55,000 meters, though, so we're at 220 just about, and 220 there. So yeah, we should hit 260, I think. We'll be cutting it real close, though. I think we might have it because we're sitting at 250 just about, and we have quite a ways to still go, so we should definitely be able to hit both of these things. I'm going to throw it into retrograde right now, because if I end up firing it while we're going the way that we're going to extend this, and I don't really want to do that. So we got 5,000 meters to go, and we should definitely hit this in just a second, so that's great news for us. I am very quickly going to EVA and get some science from way out here. And then let me go ahead and board again. Let's also do a crew report. We're sitting at 260 right now, so let's fire the engine and complete that contract. That is awesome. There goes our booster as well. We just flew right past it. So hopefully this turns off relatively soon. How's our thing looking? We're looking pretty good. We're going right back down toward Kerbal, so that should be fine. We can stop ourselves. We got a heat shield. We got our parachutes. Not really that big of a deal. All right, nice. We landed. Let's go ahead and also get a little bit of the science from the mountain range here that we landed at. So grab some science, please. Thank you. Well, not a bad science haul there. We got 21 from it. We only made $900 back from all the stuff that we put into that rocket. We are currently sitting at 317,000, so we could upgrade this building, or we could upgrade our tracking thing, which I want to read these ones real quick and see which one's more important. This is actually going to be good with the orbits, and this is just going to increase the maximum parts. So for right now, let's do this building, because that will hopefully be good for us to kind of keep track of where things are. We almost have enough to do the upgrade on this one as well, but I think we need money to build rockets, so it's probably a good thing that we don't do that right now. We do have 50 points to spend, which we need 90 for those guys. Okay, so which one of these sounds good? So I think I'm actually just going to hold on to the science points for a little bit longer and probably pick up one of the 90-point ones, because out of these 45-point ones, I don't really know which one we should go with. This one would allow us to start doing unmanned missions, but we don't really have any control over the rockets when we do unmanned missions right now. We are going to need this thing as well for the reaction wheel, and even with that, we're still going to kind of have some issues controlling the rocket right now. So I think probably holding on to the points until we get these guys is going to be more beneficial in the long run, or maybe the short term here until we get some of these things going, since we would be able to build a lander, since this is going to have the fuel rods. So that could be beneficial, this one as well, since it has the RCS stuff. So yeah, we're probably going to hold on to the points for a little while longer here. Alrighty, well anyways, that is going to be it for today's episode. In between episodes here, I am going to do a bunch of the missions or the contracts that we've already done. So this one is the same as the other engine test. It wants us to splash down again and use the skipper engine this time instead of the other engine that we used last time. So I figured we'll go ahead and just do that one off camera here. I'm also going to do any of the other ones that we've already done. For instance, this one right here wants us to send 2 more people into a a suborbital spaceflight around Kerbal and re-land them just for a bunch of money, which is the other thing that we did last episode with that little janky rocket thing that I built out. So I'm going to do that one as well. Any of the other ones that are super simple and straightforward to do, I'm going to do them as well if we've already done them. So I'm not going to do any new ones. Next episode, we're probably going to head on over to the moon, probably, depending on what we have going for us. We might have to just do more science here on Kerbal though, so we'll kind of see. We should hopefully have a few more science points by the time next episode rolls around by doing these contracts here. So I hope you guys enjoyed as always, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.